They go for like dark hair, like gym
Dark
girl
features.
kind of vibe. And one of them was like that's Rebecca. That was it. I didn't say a word, do you know what I mean?
I didn't realise that conversation actually happened though, because you've been telling me this whole time that conversation never happened.
I remember very well seeing a post that Lee did saying that she was getting a negative edit, and sadly she continues to give production the material that allow her to make her look like the villain in that marriage, as far as I'm concerned. And then oh my god, I love the fact that Abigail and John are getting along, but all I can think of is her mother and how her mother is going to feel watching it now, and what she's going to say or do that's going to put that man off this girl, because he seems to really like her, and I hope it's genuine. And the turnaround for Reiss and Leisha for me is surprising. I didn't expect that. I really didn't expect that. So I'm pleasantly surprised. Stephen, this is not a good look for him. And I'm surprised that her family didn't say anything as bad about, or Nellie's family didn't say anything, because I would have expected to have them go very hard at him, but then maybe they didn't want the backlash from the viewers. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight UK, Season 10, Episode 15. So we have the episode pick up with the newlyweds. They're all going on honeymoon, and I love this for them because it seems like Mafs has really gone all out, because you have Abigail with John being sent to Seychelles. You have Reiss and Leisha. They went to Thailand, or my dream country to visit. And then you have April and Leah go to Finland. So everybody seems to have had something that was appropriate for them, which I love. We have Reiss and Leisha sort of having a conversation, and Leisha questioning how Reiss feels about the whole situation, whether her sitting next to him on the flight was a bit too much. And it's like, this girl's family already said she's too much. So the idea that she would be asking this question means that she knows how she is. She knows that she can be a bit too intense, and he's really trying his best, I think, not to be disrespectful. But at the same time, it came across as though Reiss was overwhelmed. On her part, Leisha was worried that, he might be put off because he thinks she's a bit too intense. She is intense, and so it's really going to be uncomfortable for anyone who has to deal with her, especially given the fact that her family says she's too much and they wish that person all the best. Nellie and Stephen were getting ready for Meet the Family, and you knew it was going to be a dumpster fire. I'm surprised we didn't get to see Stephen's family. We only got to see Nellie's family. I would have loved to see Stephen's family and see how they react or how they respond to the way he's treated his wife. Obviously, they had a tough time last week. There was, the situation of him bragging about his latest conquest. And then the fact that he had a clash with one of the wives, ignored his wife after she fractured her rib, and things just continue to go downhill from there. So I can't wait for this Meet the Family. Leo and April, we all had high hopes, and sadly I am starting to see them tither, because I always say, yes, it's important that people have sex. Yes, it's important for them to be compatible, but at the same time, I feel like on a show like Mafs, you need to get to know the person before you become physically intimate. And they were both physically intimate, and they were excited, and they were bragging about it. They had already set it up from the moment that they arrived for their honeymoon. They were saying, that's the next stage, that's the next stage. And instead of them getting to know the person that they are sort of aligning themselves with, they decided to go the physical route. Am I surprised? No, because on the handle, we had April say that she's hooked up with some guys, even though there was nothing there. Leisha and Reiss, I think, were the dumpster fire for this season, because they went out on a date, and then they were having conversations with Leisha just bombarding Reiss with question after question. So she asked him, how long have you been single? He said 10 months. And then she went on to ask, what lessons have you learned from that relationship that you will sort of improve on in this connection between the two of us? And it's like, I love that they want to get to know one another, but I think it's just like they're on a quiz show. There's no depth. There's no her sort of asking a question and waiting for him to ask her a question, or maybe it's the edit, or she should, if she asks a question, then give her side of or her response to that same question, if that's what she wants him to know. But I felt it was becoming a bit too intense. You had Reiss say he wants his personal space when he's overwhelmed, and she is saying, "But I want to know. Don't shut down because then I don't know what's going on. Then I become more anxious." And it's like, yeah, but the two of you have to balance it out. If he is telling you, when I'm agitated, I want personal space," give him personal space. After he's sort of settled himself, he'll come and explain to you what's going on. He doesn't need to let you know about what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you're going to do it. For her to ask, "Are you falling for me?" I'm happy that he said to her, "It's only 3 days. It's only been 3 days. Take a step, pause, take a breath." Because I think at times people want to move at such a fast pace because they're on a fast paced show, but there's no need in you telling somebody else what they want to hear just because you're trying to get peace or you're trying to sort of appear as though you're working very hard. Nellie then had her brother and sister come and visit her. And it was Oaks galore because the siblings were excited because it seemed promising on the wedding day. So they asked, "How was the honeymoon?" They said the honeymoon was picture perfect. Everything went very well. And then came the incident about Nellie falling and fracturing her rib, and then him going out for a guy's night. And apparently he was the last person to come back from the outing. And it's like he really was avoiding going home. He really was. And for him to use the excuse of his stepdad, it doesn't make sense if you're at the pub. It would have made sense had he been with his stepdad, looking after his stepdad. Then we would all say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. He was with his stepdad, so give him grace because he was prioritizing family." Yes, he said he wasn't putting the marriage first, but the thing becomes, what will happen next time? Because it's not only your stepdad being sick. You've got a son with, challenging behavior. What's going to happen there? And so how can you say every time something happens, you go out and you sort of become slozzled? I don't get that. It also came out that, he lost his temper and he swore at her. Her siblings were not happy. They were not happy because they said this is a red flag and this is ringing alarm bells because why would he feel the need to call her out of her name? He says he was upset, that's why he did that. I don't buy it. The brother was saying he needs to look after her, he needs to prioritize her, and it's like, this is a challenging situation. This man has got 2 children, but doesn't behave like someone with 2 children, and is always used to being put as priority, regardless of what's going on around him. That's the impression that I get. And so the idea that they expect him to suddenly put that on hold and prioritize her doesn't make sense. It would be one thing if he said, when she fell, I'd gone to see my children, I'd gone to see my stepdad. Makes sense. But what he did is unacceptable. So I totally agree with her family. Abigail and John, part of me is happy for them. The other part is a bit side-eyeing in the sense that we all know how Abigail's mum behaved at the wedding, how she was interrogating this man, how she had high hopes and expectations for him. And so as much as they are both happy with the pairing and they really seem to, get along very well, I am worried in the sense that yes, he ticks all the boxes, but what is going to happen when they come back from the honeymoon? Is the mother not going to agree with this pairing and suddenly become the obstacle in this relationship and she has to fight for it? I'm side-eyeing that. I'm also happy, however, that she was honest and she told him the truth and told him that I dated someone who I didn't realize was married up until his wife called me. So it's good that she was upfront because had she lied or had she hidden that until he developed feelings, then it would have been a problem. I loved how he responded to that. I really did because I felt that was good because at least if you're opening up, you want someone who's receptive to what you're saying and not very judgmental. So the fact that he was open, he was receptive, and he listened and he didn't judge and waited for her to finish. That's all you could ask for, really. That's all you could ask for because at the end of the day, if you want a union with someone, you want to know that you're compatible and you are willing to work through certain challenges. So that I loved. Leisha and Reiss, they were the poster child for trouble. They were really the poster child for trouble because they went to this market. It looked amazing. It was clean. It was spotless. I was surprised. Anyway, then you had Reiss going on about mangoes, 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 and it's like, oh my god, I love it, but I also don't love it. I think production is editing him out to be like a what one of those people that are very dense, that are just one of those frat boys that really there's nothing upstairs. That's the impression that I get. Anyway, they sat down for a conversation and then Leisha was saying, you should be privileged to be married to me, and it's like, girl, sit down. Your family can barely stand you, so the idea and the audacity for you to want this man who doesn't know you to be privileged doesn't make sense to me. I'm happy that on his part, Reese stood his ground and he said it's too soon. Because he kept telling her it's too soon, it's too soon. She's asking him for a 5-year plan. She wants to know whether he sees her in his future. And it's like, he barely knows you. He barely knows you. Him saying to you, I see you in my future would be a lie. I'm happy that he's standing on his 10 toes and telling you that I need to get to know you better. The more I get to know you, the more I decide whether or not you're my person. Until we do that, I can't say yes, I can't say no. April and Leo, they went skiing and they really seemed to have a great time. So they had conversations about the adventures that they've done. He spoke about his cheese roll thingy, whatever that was. And she really seemed excited and seemed to really like that about him. He is trying to be on his best behavior. He reminds me of Vincent, if you've watched Married at First Sight USA. Vincent and Brianna. Vincent was really trying his best not to do or say anything that was off-putting, and people didn't understand him. They felt he was intimidated, but it was just him trying to put his best foot forward. And this is the same thing I see happening with Leo. I think he really likes April and is trying to do everything within his power not to put her off by saying something that she might find off-putting. Oh my God, the poster children. Anyway, so you have Reiss and Leisha go out on, well, it seems like they went for a stroll or they went on a date or whatever they went on. Production must not have been there. And she somehow decided it was a genius idea to pet a dog that she didn't know. The dog bit her on the nose and it's like, what were you doing in that position for that dog to bite you? Anyway, she got bitten by this dog and she wanted Reiss to go with her. Reiss didn't think it was necessary because he thought it was just a small injury. And so she was now upset that, you know, if that was him, I would have gone with him. And it's like, it's understandable that you'd want your husband to go with you, but you barely know the stranger. Yes, you're in a foreign land. Yes, you want someone who's familiar to you to go with you. But at the same time, you can't knock him for, you know, standing on his toes and saying no, I won't go with you. So they clashed over that, and it's like she's really wanting sort of commitment from him that he's not willing to offer because he barely knows her. So the idea that she wants him to treat her like they've been married for years and years and years doesn't make sense. Lee and Leah. Well, they had their friends come for the Meet the Family. And I was pleasantly surprised because I expected their family members to come in and support them. But it seems they have decided to go with their friends. So they brought their friends to come and meet the family. And the friends, I don't know. I personally didn't like Lee's friend. The way she kept looking at Leah was a bit off-putting. She must have been told something. And this is why she came with a sour face. You had the story about Rebecca come up. Lee said, you know, Leah said, you know, Rebecca is her type. Leah on her part was saying, I said I normally go for a dark-haired gym girl, and so this got Lee in a sneakers in a bunch because she was upset because she felt like, oh, you didn't tell me that. And so I'm happy that you had Leah's friend saying that's enough. You can't continue to point score. And so when she sat down with Leah, she asked her friend, what is this girl doing to help sort of you move on, to help this relationship strengthen? Because if she's constantly nitpicking and sort of picking up every situation or everything that you do wrong, then it's pointless. On her part, Lee is telling her friend, I've been very understanding, and it's like, yes, you think you've been understanding, but we haven't seen you do anything that shows that you really want this relationship to work. So I don't understand the purpose of the two of you staying in the experiment outside of looking for followers or looking for the role of a celebrity so that you can make money once the show has ended. April and Leo going sledging, that was cute. I love that they did more activities than Lee and Leah actually did on this sort of says a holiday similar to this. So they really seemed to be in there, and they went down a slope. They spoke about love languages, and on his part, I don't know whether Leo's trying not to be dense or whether he just didn't understand. He spoke about words of affirmation, but then went off on a tangent. So I don't know. I really don't know. I think because they've had sex, I think this is what is keeping April entertained. But with regards to depth, she continues to complain that there's no depth to this. She wants things that are deeper. And it's like, good luck on you. We had Leisha and Reiss go on a date. And I don't know whether they made up after they had the falling out about the dog and going to the hospital and stuff, because they went on this boat ride and I thought it was about to be a dumpster fire. Because she said, you know, she kept asking him, so what's the point? Where are we going? How do you feel about me? And I love that he kept calling her out and telling her, you're putting too much pressure on me. It's becoming too much. You know, you need to give me space, otherwise I'm going to push you away. I won't want to get to know you. And so I don't know what really happened to Leisha in previous relationships, because she keeps asking this man, do you visualize me in your future? And he is saying to her, it's only been 3 days. I still need to get to know you before I can see whether or not we have a future together. And so I don't know how much longer they could continue. I'm surprised that he actually stood up and gave her a little kiss. I think this was after they made out, because they said they were physically intimate. So I don't know whether this was after they were physically intimate or whether it was something totally different. You had Abigail and John. They seem to be the more peaceful couple, because we barely got to see them. Every time we see them, they're very relaxed and they're in their little world. They went for a massage date. I have a feeling Grace could learn a thing or two about a massage date, because this is what it's meant to be, not what Grace was doing to poor Ashley, because they really seem intimate. And I think her opening up to him and telling him about her situation with the married man has allowed them to grow a deeper bond, because even after the massage, they were making out. It's like, hey, good for you too. Leisha and Reiss, they went on another date. Well, they went on a kickboxing date. And this was actually quite insightful and quite different from what they'd done before, because they sat down and were having conversations about, children. Do you see yourself having children? If you had children, would you want them to do kickboxing? And so for him, I think he believes a lot in gender roles. It wasn't picked up on, because he said he wants his daughter to be doing ballet and that sort of thing, but he doesn't want her to be into boxing, but he wants his sons to be doing that. And so I'm pleasantly surprised that she didn't call him out on that. Grace would have had a thing or two to say about that. It then came out that they have been physically intimate. And they really seem to be in a very good space when they went on their last date before they left the honeymoon. And they were saying we're in a very good space. We've been physically intimate. We really like where we're going. On her part, Alicia was saying, Reese teaches me to slow down and just, take a breath, which she really liked. And it's like, hey, if the two of them are attracted to one another and they've been physically intimate and they've slowed down and are trying to get to know each other, hopefully it works for them. Hopefully it works. That's all I want. April and Leo went on their final date. And so they were sitting down and they were having conversations. Before they even sat down, you had Leo say, I am worried that I'm going to say something or do something that's going to be off-putting for her. So I'm trying to be on my P's and Q's. So I'm happy that she said, I need depth to our chats. I need depth, because at the moment we're being very superficial and that's not enough for me. I want more. I want to get to know you as a person. So I'm happy that he had to open up and say, okay, I am an introvert, extrovert. So I try and be an extrovert. I put on a persona to allow people to get to know me, but there are times when I just want to be quiet. And it's like good for him, because he cannot keep up with her. She is an extra extrovert, but she's not as intense as Leisha. So I get it, and it seems she really likes him, because she's really willing to slow down and allow him to sort of catch up with her. According to the conversation, she said that's the depth she was looking for. So she gave him words of affirmation to say, thank you for letting me know, because this is what I want to hear. This is what I want to know. Do I have hope for them? I do. I think all three couples that are coming into the experiment now are moving at a different pace and have sort of better sort of tools to work with as compared to everybody else who's already been in the experiment. Because for the couples that are in the experiment, I have a feeling some are keeping up appearances and are not doing as well as they're trying to make us believe. So I can't wait to see what happens at the next dinner party, because it's going to be intense, because people are going to feel intimidated. I said this last week, so I can't wait. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 14. Bye everyone.